This special edition of the ExploreVM Podcast was recorded live at Camp Rubrik Insiders Edition in Palo Alto, California. Hello, everyone. We're live here at the Rubrik Headquarters in, where exactly is
Palo Alto?
Palo Alto, okay. We got bussed in and flown in from San Francisco, so I lost track of the geography around here. So we are here live from the Camp Rubrik Insiders Edition event, and I've got three other attendees with me, and just thought it would be good to have a little chat about the event that we participated in today. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
My name is Guarino, and I'm a VMware employee, so for the most part I work within VMware education, providing services around teaching, certification development, curriculum development, etc.
I'm Matt Crape. I'm an IT manager by day. I blog at 42u.ca. That's about it.
I'm Byron Schaller, principal technologist with Round Tower Technologies. I do stuff with computers.
Okay, so for those who don't know, Rubrik is doing like a training and educational event around the country focused on customers, and it's Camp Rubrik. They brought in a bunch of us bloggers, podcasters, social media influencers. It was a little bit more in-depth. We had more access to the team here at Rubrik as well. So I guess first question is, what stood out the most for you today from this event?
So for me personally, what stood out was the openness of everyone who we either talked to or who talked to us, including Bipple earlier on. They didn't really seem to be holding back a whole lot. Obviously, there was some stuff that they couldn't tell us, but I was surprised with the openness.
Yeah, the candor was refreshing, and their willingness to take open feedback and really have the concerns of their, what their customers are asking for really at heart was very apparent.
Yeah, absolutely would agree with those statements, as well as the fact that they were very inviting of constructive criticism around the utilization of the product, and the fact that they gave us significant amounts of hands-on time and guidance to work with the product, and then give direct feedback after we had some time for that experience to marinate.
So was today everyone's first experience with Rubrik, like hands-on, or have we had experience with it before?
It was definitely my first time playing around with the system.
Okay.
Hands-on, yes. We've installed it for a couple of years now, but actually interacting with the product is the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, so first time for me as well. So I thought it was very interesting that they were willing to do that. Just have us come in, invest in us getting hands-on with the product, and definitely changed my perspective.
Yeah, that was going to be the follow-up is, so since this was our first time, and it was also my first time playing within like the UI and actually with the product itself, the question was going to be, like, what did the interface meet your expectations? Like, does it look like it's something that you could train people and use and deploy readily, or what are our thoughts on the actual user experience?
I mean, the whole marketing line with Rubrik is simplicity, right? And they preach that over and over and over again, and I found this to be very true. I mean, as long as you had a general idea of what you're trying to do, you could figure it out really without reading anything. It was well laid out, and it was intuitive.
Yeah, I would sort of echo that as well, in the sense of maybe the first minute or so, it took a little bit of getting used to the interface, kind of glancing things over. But after that, it was very easy to find things, very easy to work your way around the system. They got a couple of naming conventions that might be a little different from traditional sort of backup and recovery products, but once you kind of wrap your head around that, it did seem to flow fairly smoothly.
Yeah, the interface is extremely intuitive, and it is Spartan. It is definitely bare bones. Not to the point that you feel like you're missing anything, but
right.
In the event that you do, they're very, very strongly advocating that you work with the API to cover any of those gaps, which is another thing that they had exposed us to as well. I got my badge for that.
Your basket weaving APIs? Yeah.
So one of the big messages we got today is Rubrik isn't just backup. There's a lot that's going on with it in development. What are our thoughts on where they're going with, I said this incorrectly in an interview I just did with Keith Townsend, with Polaris? What are our thoughts on that product?
So they talk a lot about not being a backup company, and for a long time I was like, yeah, right, you're a backup company. Let's just deal with that. And that is, for the most part, true, but now that they're really trying to figure out these other use cases with, we know all about your data, we have all this metadata, why not use it for the powers of good, right? And it seems to be a good track that they're on with that. A lot of it, I think, is to be seen as to what actually comes out of the use cases and things like that, but they definitely are thinking outside of the realm of just backup here, which is nice to see, and just waiting to hear more, really.
Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with the significance of centralized management across multiple data sites, as well as aggregation and intelligence of the data that is being backed up, and the ability to actually interact with that and draw meaningful conclusions, even across multiple data sites. That was huge, and it really opened up for me, as well as the cloud native and the cloud integration. Those two things were really showcased here at the Camp Rubrik event, and really kind of helped open my eyes to why it's more than a backup product. Because I had the same view as Byron coming into this. Sure you are.
Right.
But if you really do, once you're hands-on with the product and you're exposed to it, you can really recognize where they're coming from when they make that statement, and it's not just marketing hype.
Right.
Yeah, and to sort of follow on to that, I would still argue that today they are primarily still a backup company. But I think we've all seen the foundation that they're laying out where, 3 to 5 years, I can see backup just being one application of their platform. Tying back into Polaris, they're talking about being able to start reading all the stuff from SaaS offerings. If you've got this one-stop shopping you could do to basically search, all your data across any sort of cloud solution, any software as a service, that's pretty compelling.
Some beautiful indexing capabilities, and a point that Byron actually brought up in the room was, I actually listened to what you were saying. He had brought up a point about the fact that there was tremendous power in that function alone, and that's something that customers are truly asking for. And it does show you the future vision and the future direction. And you also mentioned another use case, which was cloud migration. Actually being able to swing workloads using this tool, and if that's something that they can really, really capitalize on, I think that's tremendous in terms of their future, and really setting apart and delivering on the statement of we're not just a backup company.
And I think it'd be fair to say that a lot of us in the room today found out about a lot of capabilities in the system that we just didn't know about, like that cloud instantiation. I had no idea that they could do that.
No.
Yeah, the ability to back up or recover to the cloud from on-premises, or conversely recover from cloud to on-premises.
And even defining instances within the cloud that are not virtual but versioned instances within the cloud, which I thought was pretty impressive too.
The conversion was really nice to see. So you could go from backing up a VMDK, and it'll convert it to an AMI on Amazon or a VHD in Azure or whatever. That's not to be overlooked. That's a very powerful capability that not a lot of folks understand they have, I think, or know exist. Yeah. One other thing that I really noticed today was the attention to detail, especially by the product teams and the engineering folks. Everything they're doing is very on purpose, and they have a plan, and they seem to be executing it well. That's one thing I've noticed about Rubrik in general, just from a marketing standpoint. Everything is very well put together and very shiny, and it looks very good. And I think that's not just a marketing thing. I think that really permeates the culture of the company, and it really shows.
Yeah, the tech team that we interacted with also really reinforced that perception, and how they definitely were seriously intrigued with all of our feedback, and they took it to heart. I did not ever once feel like there was any lip service in there. There was genuine interest on what we had to say as far as improving the product and the direction that it's going.
No matter how small.
Yeah, we had some pretty insignificant gripes, and they were still very, very serious about detailing them and seeking to rectify that moving forward.
Yeah, they were when we had the panels in front of us, they were taking notes, and like you said, very minuscule things, but everything was being written down, and so it'll be interesting to see what kind of influence that we have. Yeah, in the next patch or release.
It was interesting as well as we were mentioning these things. They were giving immediate feedback to confirm our their understanding of our perceived issue. So they would say, oh yeah, when you're in this interface and you do this. And some of the things that we brought up as gripes, they would immediately say, oh, we've already dealt with that. If you click this, this, and this, it's there. And it's just something that the lab manuals we were interacting with didn't take us through that.
Right.
But it was good to know, they know their product inside and out. Every single person that was up there had a tremendous grasp of exactly what it is that they have to offer, what it does, what its shortcomings are. And they were even telling us things. Yeah, we're working on this. And they were pointing things out to us. I was very impressed with the team.
So, I guess this isn't really off topic. Deployment models. What are our thoughts on Rubrik being appliance-based in this day and age?
I mean, it really comes. So we hit this a couple points with a few of the founders, and their response was understandable. They wanted to make it as simple to deploy as possible, right? So you put it into hardware, throw it into a rack, you turn it on, and you go. That makes sense for the on-prem stuff. As we get to more and more hybrid solutions and a lot more cloud-based, all that goes away, right? And so and it's all essentially the same software platform, just a matter of how you deploy it. I think I don't see the appliance going away anytime soon, but I see it being just one of a handful of options that you're going to have.
What I found interesting, so I take a look at the appliance and I just see it as a delivery mechanism for the software these days. There was talk about being able to run the software elsewhere. The only big caveat I can see with that is you can't really guarantee performance. Now, at the same time, you might be able to, spec something out better. Just load it up with Flash if that's what your workload needs.
Right.
But how do you start dealing with those situations where somebody goes cheap, right? Plain and simple. But, I don't see the appliance going away anytime soon because I think that's actually one of its big selling points to enterprises is you take this, you rack it, and 5 minutes later you're backing up workloads.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't see that as a problem either. And to the point that you made about someone going cheap, I mean, you mitigate that with an HCL and a reference architecture, and you set what a minimum standard is for what you're doing. So I think that can be mitigated. And I mean, ultimately, the pain that someone has to go through to implement a solution in their environment, in their enterprise, if the value is there in the actual solution itself, we all know that we will deal with the pain of whatever the installation and initial configuration is in order to get the benefit of the actual solution, which there doesn't seem to be much pain with this particular solution. So as far as installation and initial configuration and then subsequent management, we absolutely experience.
So were there features that weren't brought up today or that we didn't discover today that you kind of hope that they bring into the platform?
So there was some stuff on slides that was kind of glossed over that is coming with Polaris that I'm really interested to hear more about. That I think is just not ready for public discussion yet.
Right.
But those applications and how those actually leverage all that metadata, I really want to know more about. I think that's just a matter of time before that stuff gets released.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think my only overall comment about Polaris is, to me, it almost still feels like it's a separate product. I think the team has to do a little bit more, I don't know if it would be a better marketing job or whatnot, but to me, it feels like it's a separate product that happens to, sort of work with Rubrik. I think they sort of need to stitch that integration a little bit tighter to make it clear that, this is going to be our platform at some point.
Yeah, I would agree with that because if you ask me to define right now exactly what it is,
it's an acquisition.
yeah. I mean, I would be like centralized management. I would throw out some industry words that would apply, but I don't know that I feel like I could accurately define exactly what it does. So, I mean, going forward, it seems like they've got a lot of great eggs in the basket. It's just a matter of time before they hatch, and we're just not there to actually witness it yet. But if they deliver on the things that we had seen under Friend DA, it'll be very impressive.
I want to thank everyone for their time. Where can you be found online?
So you can find me at Byron Schaller on Twitter or on the Cut the Noise podcast.
Matt, that IT guy on Twitter. I blog at 42u.ca, and you can find me in Canada.
You can find me at Brett_Guarino on Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn. I don't really blog, but I'm happy to discuss anything, and that's about it.
I'd like to thank you for listening. If you've got a topic or idea for the show, or would like to be a guest on the ExploreVM podcast, please reach out to me on Twitter at ExploreVM, email me, paul@explorevm.com, or facebook.com/ExploreVM. Once again, thank you for listening.